Drinking a cup of coffee is a great way to relax. But in Indonesia, it sparked a controversy. Okay, so in Indonesia, there has been a little bit of a debate or a controversy about this guy who works as an English teacher but isn't a native English speaker, who came out and made this very bold statement saying that there is no native English speaker on the surface of the earth that would ever say, I'm drinking a cup of coffee, as opposed to I'm having a cup of coffee.
What are you doing, Mum?
I'm drinking a cup of coffee. Again.
What are you doing, Mum?
I'm having a cup of coffee. Again.
Mum, what are you doing?
Just having a drink. I don't really think this is a particularly important topic, but it's something that has attracted an awful lot of attention in Indonesia. And so, as a native speaker, I thought I'd put in my tuppence worth, which is an idiom we use to mean I would give my opinion. Now, I actually had to go back and try and find the original source of this video because it's important to me to look at the context that this guy was talking about. And actually, when I found the original video, there was no context. And that to me is already raising the alarms and setting off the red flags, because we use language in a context. So we can't just take any statement out of the thin air, whoop, like that, like magic. We need to make sure that we're looking at the context that we use the language in. So he didn't give any context, so that doesn't really help. But let's just look at the grammar of those two sentences. I'm drinking a cup of coffee, or I'm having a cup of coffee. Well, obviously both of those statements are going to be in the continuous tense. So that would be either something that we're doing right now, or else something that we might do in the future. Those are the two circumstances where we might find ourselves using the present continuous tense. So if I were to say, I'm drinking a cup of coffee right now, actually that is an unusual thing to say, because why would I be telling someone that I'm doing that right now? Under what circumstances? At the same time, if we look at the phrase, I'm having a cup of coffee, if we added a time marker to that sentence, then that could well be us telling someone about an arrangement for the future that we've made. For example, I'm having a cup of coffee with my friend Brian next week. It doesn't mean I'm doing it right now, whereas I'm drinking a cup of coffee, we wouldn't use to describe an arrangement in the future. So if this is the context that he's talking about, then I can kind of see what the guy is saying. We wouldn't use I'm drinking a cup of coffee to talk about a future plan. If we were talking about a future plan, we're much more likely to use having. But we're also not that likely to tell someone I'm having a cup of coffee with my friend Brian next week. We just say, I'm having a coffee with Brian next week, or I'm going out for a coffee with Brian next week, or I'm meeting Brian for a coffee next week. And this is the thing with English. Like, it's never black and white. It's never this one option or this other one option. There are always more than one way to say whatever it is you're trying to say. There are always alternatives. So don't get caught up with anyone who's saying, it's not this, it's this. What's the context, first of all? Now, I actually think that this guy may have been doing something that teachers like to do, which is making a bad joke. And it may not even be his bad joke. It may be that he has heard a native speaker teacher make a bad joke and he's tried to pass that joke on and kind of somehow just got it wrong. Teachers are very good at bad jokes. They're terrible. Nobody laughs, but we do them anyway because that's part of being a teacher. Entertaining the crowds. But the thing is, when we are explaining to somebody about the uses of the present continuous tense, then what we're going to do is explain the fact that the most common use of the present continuous tense is to talk about something that we're doing right now. Now, a teacher could make a joke about the fact that we wouldn't ever say we wouldn't ever answer the question, what are you doing, with the statement, I'm drinking a coffee. And the reason for that is because if you're drinking a coffee, your mouth would be full and so you can't answer the question. That's a teacher joke. He's not talking about the grammar. He's not making a rule. You can never say you're drinking coffee. Never, never. The world will end if you say you're drinking a coffee. No, he's making a joke and he kind of messed it up. Anyway, the thing that I would like you to take away, in fact, there are two things. There are two things that I would like you to take away from this video. The first is that it's never just right or wrong. There are always different interpretations and it always depends on the language, the context that the language is being used in. So that's the first thing. The second thing I'd like you to take away from this, and this is undisguised self-promotion, is the fact that while you can learn a lot from non-native speaker teachers, if you really want to get to grips with understanding all of the little details of the language, then you need to learn it from a native speaker. So having said that, why don't you click www.englop.com and then you can come and study English with myself and Sasha Stevenson.